Thank you. Well, thank you very much for selecting and joining this session offline and online. And today we have Yuzaki-san, the governor of Hiroshima, as a kind of surprise guest panelist. Hori-san probably just came up with the idea of inviting Yuzaki-san to this panel this morning. So I got a notice. And it's great to have you. Thank you. And here we have a very variety of experts. David Atkinson, as you know, has been the chief advisor to the government, especially during the Prime Minister Abe and Prime Minister Suga-san. He currently serves advisor to the JNTO, Japan National Travel Organization. Ben Liao from Taipei, thank you for flying to Tokyo. He is a hotel expert and also he's the vice chair of the Pacific Asia Travel Organization, PATA. And Yuzaki-san, as you know, the governor of Hiroshima with the very rich historical and cultural and natural assets, and he's keen on developing the tourism further. And Satoko, a luxury tourism expert, and you also consult luxury hotels and ryokans. So she will give a valuable insight, especially from the luxury tourism development perspective. I myself have chaired the government committee on the luxury tourism development, and my team with the various experts, including Satoko actually, has supported more than 100 projects for tourism content development across Japan over the past 4 years through programs developed by Japan Tourism Agency and the Agency for Cultural Affairs. You may have read the description of the panel, but the title is Tourism as Japan's Leading Export Industry in 2030. Leading export industry means larger than automotive sector in terms of the amount of export by 2030. That's the vision the government has proposed. And we like to discuss the issues to be addressed to get there, and also the kind of opportunities for businesses, maybe foreign investors to have in this country from the tourism perspective. So I'd like to start with David. David, can you give a quick overview of how you see the recent recovery and rebound of the tourism, especially inbound tourism into Japan?
Okay, thanks. Hi, everybody. As of the end of August, the total number of inbound has increased to 15.2 million. The initial forecasts for 2023 that were done last year in October when inbound restarted was that this year we would see somewhere in the region of 7 to 10 million people coming. That turned out obviously to be very wrong. And at the moment, we're currently running at 69% of the same numbers for 2019, when the total number of inbound peaked at 32 million. Within that, however, there have obviously been, as you know, some significant changes. Ex-Asia, mostly Europe and the US, for the period from January until August, is already at 99% of where it was for the same period in 2019. And recently, we've been running at around about 120% of the 2019 rate. China obviously is still relatively low. It's about 20% of where it was in 2019, which means that Asia outside of China is currently running at 87% of where it was in 2019, and last month went over 100% of the 2019 number for August for the first time. As a result of that, this year, because the seasonality of inbound peaks in August and runs lower for September, October, November, December before picking up again in the spring, the most realistic forecast is for around about 21 million for this year. But excluding China and for various other reasons, the foreign exchange earn for that period is going to be probably somewhere in the region of 4.4 to 4.5 trillion versus 4.8 trillion for the period in 2019. In other words, we'll be 70% of the number of people and 92% of the total earn. Now, there are two major reasons for the increase in per capita, which is basically, in simple terms, has gone up from around about 150,000 to around about 200,000 per person, slightly higher. There are two reasons for that. Firstly, the impact of the lower yen increases the revenue impact. The vast majority of people, when they leave to go on holiday, leave with a fixed budget. They don't tend to change it as a result of where the currency moves. And so when people come to Japan, they upgrade their hotel, they upgrade their food, they decide to do more, take the green car or whatever it is. So they spend more per person than they would have done before. It is not true, it is not statistically true that a weaker currency increases the number of people. This increase to 21 million people has little or nothing to do with the impact of the yen. The second reason is that because global transportation costs are so much higher than they were before, it means that you're cutting out the lower end of the demographic, which means that you're getting an enormous increase in people who spend more per person than is true for the period that we saw for 2019. So as a result of that, you're getting more people from further afield who will be here for longer periods of time, and as a result of that will spend more. And the impact of the weaker yen means that people will spend more anyway. The outlook for 2024 thus becomes much more important. China is increasing. The increase in the number of people, I'm expecting probably we'll see 24 to 25 million people come in 2024. The increase in the number of people will inevitably, at best, put a lid on the growth in spend per person. And there's a significant probability that the spend per person will go down. But obviously with more people coming in, you'll still see more in terms of revenues. 2030, just to wrap this up, 2030 is an interesting thing because making tourism the largest export earner is, which will probably happen, by the way, because it was number 2, some number 3 on some people's view in 2019, is probably more than likely to happen, mainly because exports per GDP is not a particularly high hurdle for Japan to hit. Exports to GDP for Japan currently run around about 15%. The global average is 44%. And that makes Japan 144th in the world in terms of exports to GDP. So it's not a particularly high hurdle. It's an exciting headline. I'm not sure it has as much meaning as people make it out. But of course, for regional economies, this increase in revenues has far more importance than the importance to the national economy. Thank you.
Well, thank you for a great summary of recent situation. I'd like to ask Yuzaki-san about your perspective, particularly for Hiroshima or maybe the Chugoku area.
Well, as David-san said, we're seeing a really rapid increase in the inbound tourists in Hiroshima, well, primarily in Hiroshima, and I'm not very sure about the Chugoku district as a whole, but and especially from Europe and the U.S. I don't, because I was called in only like 7:30 this morning. I didn't have chance to check the statistics, but I've seen, I think, only like stats in June, but the inbound compared to the 2019 is about 80% from January to June, and of course the number is increasing. So I think July and August should be much higher, so could be 100% to 100 plus. And in case of Hiroshima, we didn't have many Chinese or Korean tourists from the start. So I think we might be having a stronger comeback than other area which were dependent on Chinese or Korean tourists. But the looking into the future, 2025 or 2030, my concern is whether we are ready to really accommodate the growing number of the guests. Not only in terms of number and quality of hotels, but also, we've been a little bit discussing before this session, but the what we offer for tourists to experience. Sometimes the Japanese tourism industry focuses on particular investment or particular thing or items, like hotel. They just look at the hotel, and or like in case of Hiroshima, we have a lot of outdoor sport experiences. But this part, all these are not necessarily well combined and organized as a kind of entire experience that we can offer to them. And of course, market is so diverse, so it's very difficult to organize everything. But to some extent, we need to think about providing more designed product, or what we call, by the way, product in Hiroshima. It could be a content or whatever, but what we call product. We need to have more of that to accommodate more guests to be the number one export industry in Japan. And we talk about the over tourism, but I don't think it's not necessarily over tourism now. I mean, Kyoto maybe, they have not been able to handle the public transportation, etc. But other areas, even in Miyajima, I don't think it's over tourism. We have a lot more room. We're not quite ready to accept those more tourists.
So it is not over tourism. It's rather the lack of sufficient infrastructure and capacity to accommodate those tourists. Yes. You had the G7 summit this May, and did it give a very great impact to?
Well, I think one, we saw a lot of Indians. Just before and after the G7 summit, and of course, Prime Minister Modi came, and he had a Gandhi statue placed in near the Peace Park, and I think that attracted a lot of Indian tourists. Because on Miyajima we used not to see many Indians, but there is Indian people again. So I think there's some impact. Other Americans and French and German, they've been in Hiroshima so much before, so we don't see much difference. But obviously, the number of people who come to the Peace Museum has increased,
I see.
and they, and again, here is a capacity problem again. In like in August, we had like 73 degrees, and people were waiting in line outside, although in the shade, but for 2 hours or so. That was really terrible.
I see. Thank you. Ben, I'd like to hear from you. You have maybe two lenses, one from obviously Taiwan, but also you're advisor to Yamagata Prefecture. So how do you see the situation now?
Hello, is this working? Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to just introduce myself a little bit more. I just came back from New Delhi, actually, the PATA Travel Mart, and we were talking about the Travel for Life pledge, and it's all about responsible tourists. And that's just a different way. I mean, just following up on over-tourism. We all need to have a lot of numbers to make up for the major losses during COVID. It's very difficult to consider sustainability right afterwards because our companies are hurting. Yet this is something very important and a major learning that happened during the last couple of years. So how do we continue? That is a very big problem. And of course, just as the mayor was discussing about how do you have the capacity for people in the tourism business when everyone is concerned that they cannot hold on to their jobs. So as we're looking at moving forward, we really need to consider how do we redefine tourism. Japan has a lot of demand. There's no problem with in terms of its marketing and so forth, but how do you manage it? That is the major problem. From my other point of view, as a hotel owner, I'm seeing this every day, in which we have numbers in Taiwan of 90% occupancy, and our rates have increased by 20%. But we cannot manage that for very long with our probably about 85% of our staff. So we're burning out, and our quality of standards, our service are just not easy to maintain. And looking into the future, it's just getting harder and harder because with all the demand, everyone's looking to open hotels again. So there's a lot of competition coming around, and we have to prepare. Thank you.
So the biggest challenge for you at this moment is really the lack of sufficient staff to support the operation in a sustainable manner. Yeah. Well, I think that's happening everywhere, actually, including Japan, but everywhere in the world. Thank you. Satoko, any additional view you have about the recent situation?
Yes, when it comes to the recent situation, of course, the obvious is that all eyes are on tourism now, and people are all talking about luxury travel, even in rural Japan. So that's a great opportunity, but at the same time, as a luxury travel designer, we find it very difficult to identify destinations that we will be comfortable to actually recommend. There are several factors. It's about the right guide, the right accommodation, the right experience, the right vision of the destination. So to me, it seems like many people are interested in developing accommodation, but they may not be so interested in actually focusing on the vision of each destination, which is actually the most important factor in order to develop a destination. It's not just about relying on to one luxury hotel.
Are you working on projects to help kind of municipal governments or DMOs on those?
Yes, currently I'm working with the Ministry of Environment. They have a vast amount of land in Tohoku, in Aomori Prefecture, and they're having a lot of issues with abandoned hotels and houses, but their plan is to redevelop the entire destination. And
especially around Towadako?
Around Towada area, yes. Yeah. The nature is so beautiful, and the great thing that I found is that there are younger people moving into this destination. So I do see the potential. And what what is amazing about this Towada region is that those young people are trying to become the bridge with the elder people who are above 60 to create a vision that will stand for another 100 years in Towada, which is very important to do before any kind of content development.
It is a very important topic, developing the vision for the destination as a whole. Yuzaki-san, how do you describe your vision for Hiroshima?
Well, we've talked a lot about this vision, and when we're developing our tourism promotional plan, we renew every 5 years. And the last one, we had a kind of special group discussion. Is it that Hiroshima wants to be as a destination or attraction? And our conclusion was, okay, we have too much variety and we cannot focus. But what we are trying with Setouchi DMO is authentic Japan. The Setouchi area is not like a Hokkaido or Okinawa. Hokkaido or Okinawa is a great resort place where your experience is out of your daily life. Doesn't necessarily connect with your daily life. Like if you go to ski resort in Hokkaido, you're completely disconnected from your office hours or something like that. But Setouchi region is more connected with the real lives of Japanese people, and the landscape or the customs, a little omatsuri. Or industry there even, they're all kind of authentic when we have a long history, and we have variety of culture, including the culinary culture is very different from prefecture or place to place in Setouchi area. Like, we share all the fish, right? I mean, technically, but the fish we eat is different from place to place, and so these are, things, and real the roots of Japanese culture is there, since like the end of Jomon period or something. So we would like to take that as a basis and add some other attractions based on like in Ehime, like onsen is a huge topic. Cycling is a huge topic.
Shimanami Kaido.
Shimanami and surrounding area. We develop all those different themes based on this authentic Japan theme.
Yeah, I agree that the region has great variety of authenticity, but at the same time, probably the Setouchi area is one of the top candidates for developing luxury tourism because it has the Shimanami cycling road, which attracts a lot of affluent bikers. It has Onomichi, and it has a lot of great architecture, and of course museums too, and great food. So everything is already there to attract kind of upscale tourists. How do you think?
Well, yes and no. Yes part is, we have elements or ingredients, and what we don't have yet is, like for cycling, we'd like to expand a theme just beyond riding on the Shimanami Kaido. You have accommodations, food, and also a variety of cycling experiences like e-bike, and maybe like a combination with the marine sports too. We have to develop along these themes not only just those famous elements. Like Miyajima is good. Miyajima and Peace Park is UNESCO World Heritage Site. But you know, they spend like only 2 hours each, and they go back to Kyoto where they stay.
Right.
So you know, we need stories or other tales surrounding one item or a couple items and combine them together and build it or design it as a kind of entire experience.
I see. Well, I see your point. Ben, yes, please.
Yes. I'm sorry. I guess earlier I didn't really speak as much about Yamagata, and so I wanted to share a little bit more, especially from a Taiwanese outbound point of view and understanding Japan. For very many years, Taiwan has always loved to come to Japan, and we've gotten to know it quite a bit. But at the same time, we haven't really ventured out as much and have really gone deeper. And sometimes, even though that we're also an Asian society, some things are lost. In terms of going to Yamagata in the Shonan region, for example, it's important for us to kind of detox in a way from like a international point of view and be ready to understand like the beauty of the mountains, the Yamabushi culture, and also to understand the food and the natural beauty of it. Quite often for us in Taiwan, we consider that, well, it has to taste delicious compared to what we usually eat. But if you're traveling, you want to try something different, but you don't understand it, and you only compare it to your own, it's kind of lost. So it was important to detox, and for example, they also have the amazing Shojin Ryoyu, which is about mindful cuisine, and how you can think about all the labor that goes in from the farmers to the chef preparation and so forth, but also about the natural cycle of ocean water, falling rain into the mountains, and as it goes down the streams into the irrigation to the rice canals, the story of the land. It's something that for Taiwanese people, which we're living in just like everyone's modern society, we don't really pay attention to food production. And then when you hear all this story, it's amazing. And when you're eating it and you're hearing the stories from the farmers and understanding their lifestyles, it's really regional and it's very important. And the food just tastes so much better. It's a strawberry is a strawberry. You know, everyone has strawberries. Now some are sweeter, some are more tart, and so forth. But it's the story and also understanding how you're all connected. That is something that's very amazing. And these stories you do take back home, and it's not the same.
Yeah, you eat with brain, right? Yeah. I mean, like wine, the wine's wine, but you always have this, terroir thing when you drink wine, and that makes it better.
Well, Shona area particularly has a very unique, in a way different currently culture, which was protected all over the history. So that gives some special addition to the attraction Yamagata can offer.
Yes, and I think it also is a great way for the Southeast Asian population to re-understand Japanese food. I think that because of the situation in Japanese agriculture and how you have the seasons very clearly, you elevate, for example, bamboo shoots in May to such a high level that you would have people waiting in line for 2 hours to be the first to get the freshest produce from the market. And also have these kaiseki with like 15 different types of bamboo, prepared in 15 different types of ways, I mean. For Taiwan, we have bamboo every day. It's just something that's very different. And we never really cared that much about bamboo because it was so easy access. But when you travel and you see from a different cultural point of view, and not only is a story, but you understand the world again in a deeper meaning. And that's something that I think Japan has a lot of. And it's something that can be shared with the Southeast Asian market.
So we've discussed the importance of destination vision, importance of unique culture and history, importance of guides. Well, let's discuss today's main topic, which is what to do to realize the vision of becoming the leading export industry by 2030. David, please jump in.
Yeah. One of the things which I think it's listening to the other panelists is always interesting. When I working at JNTO, it's always interesting. People always are looking for, the answer. It's luxury. It's it's experiences. It's Chinese people or not Chinese people. It's there's always the latest fad that people are looking for. But doing what I do at JNTO, and one of our jobs is to provide the numbers for the locations where people are providing the content. You can provide as much content as you want, but if you don't get people to come, then it's basically a meaningless effort. And one of the things which I, working at JNTO, stress to the people at JNTO every single time that I go there, and I'm basically there once a week, is this is all about diversity. Some people love to go look at traditional architecture. A lot of people hate it. Some people want to go cycling. Other people couldn't think of anything worse than going cycling. Some people want to get in the onsen with everybody else naked. Other people find that the most horrifying concept in the world. They want their own private bath. So the answer is not private bath, nor is it getting naked with all these people that you don't know. There are lots of people when they come to Japan for the first time, 99.7% of the first-timers who come to Japan will mainly eat Japanese food. The second time that will drop to just over 50%, and by the third time they come, it will drop to around about a third. Incidentally, for those Japanese people, most Japanese people eat Japanese food once a day, a third. People say, well, why would you come to Japan and eat Thai food at the Dusitani? Well, because you can go to any Japanese hotel and they will serve Japanese food and Italian. So what? People want variety. And luxury is not sustainable without the middle tier, and it is not sustainable without the lower tier. The lower tier is also not sustainable without the middle tier, nor is it sustainable without the top tier. So if you want it to be the largest export business in Japan, then it has to be diverse by definition. If you go look at Toyota, the largest earner at the moment, and say, what sort of car does Toyota produce? There is no one car that Toyota produces. They have cars for very rich people. They have cars for people who just want to zip down to the local convenience store. They have small cars, big cars, SUVs and all these other things. Tourism is exactly the same process. So when I designed an advertising, a marketing structure for JNTO, and I do this once a month, we go through for all of the different offices once a month and we check to make sure that the information that they're providing is not skewed to that person's own personal preferences. So, it has to be 15% food and 15% activities and 20% nature and that is all done through big data on a very scientific basis. So first of all, I think people need to get out of this idea that there's, this is our destination and we're going to focus it predominantly on, Europeans and Americans. Not sustainable. So that's one thing. The other thing is, DMOs in this country, I think, are still a disaster. They think of themselves as being marketing organizations, but they're not. They're management organizations, and they should be creating a place for people to go visit, a destination. And that means that they have to get all the different parts, the hotels, the food, the transportation, the multilingual, the Wi-Fi. They have to get all those different things to work together, and they don't. And that still is a big problem. I've shouted about this for years, and it doesn't seem to get that much better. And the third real issue behind all of this is still how people charge, and more importantly, how they pay. I was in Okinawa recently, beautiful new hotel, Hyatt, magnificent location, fabulous facilities, and they rip your face off to go stay there. And then the vast majority of the people working there are being paid the minimum wage. That is a non-sustainable business model, and more importantly, it will not create Japan's largest export business because it's unsustainable. I recently had a meeting with, for example, the man who runs Bulgari Japan, opened a new hotel, Bulgari name, and the business model itself is essentially a business hotel. In the rest of the world, you can charge people that amount, but you can't provide that low level of service. And the more hotels that come here, and the more people who come here, they will look at this and say, why am I paying very, very high prices for a product that is basically a business hotel? And that really, really needs to change because it's, as I said, it's unsustainable, and it does not stimulate the local economy in the way that tourism in Japan was supposed to, was designed to, was designed to achieve. And there are all sorts of reasons that we can get into later as to why that's happening. And it is not the fault of the people who work there, because you're getting minimum wage service for the minimum wage that you're paying them. And incidentally, I think 100 yen is far too cheap for the Miyajima tax that you just put on. I think we could ramp that up and spend some more money on the infrastructure that to support Miyajima.
Well, very, very important input from you. The first point, diversity, variety, is of course, but basically many destinations lack effective management to manage all the facets of tourist customer journey, and also the industry structure of low wages for hotels, but not only hotels, for restaurants and for many related sectors as well. Anything we should add? Ben, maybe you may have a word.
Yes, especially talking about the workforce and I believe earlier there was also the talk about from an earlier panel about LinkedIn and AI, and the low pay situation. As we are moving forward, it's not just a tourism point of view, but also for the workforce for in any industry. How are you going to be upskilling? And in some ways, for example, in an earlier panel, LinkedIn was talking about how they were going to be competing with Harvard in terms of business school skills and so forth as well. For hotels, in the service industry, it's not something that people usually think about as a very high-end job, I guess, and that's part of the problem. With robots already, and now with AI, a lot of the work can be simplified, but that takes us back to the most important part, the human sustainability, or the human touch in tourism, hospitality, and how are we going to be creating that if we don't give people a chance to upskill themselves and understand about management and other things beyond labor? But within this, the most important thing with tourism, we want to go back to the community-based and talk about the beauty, the dignity of a place. This is what especially high-end tourists would like to know. They would like to be in touch with people. I mean, the food is great. You know, the activities can be fun, but at the end of the day, it's really about the people. And without people, if it's going to become something of a, call it like a self-service or self-hospitality, it's going to run a little bit empty. And the further we go, the workforce is going to not find the reason to continue. And local tourism will lose its story and its community. So this is something that's very important.
Thank you. One of the objectives to have this panel was to encourage actually new entrants into the sector, because when we are talking about quadrupling the size of the industry, obviously we need new players. And also to develop luxury tourism market, we need probably more capable players with the better design skills. So where do you see opportunities for new entrants? Yuzaki-san, please.
Sorry, I wasn't paying too much attention. No. Well, you know, I don't have any specific sector that would be coming into the industry, but obviously we need more investment. You know, investment in private sector, investment by the government, including like us, and we are trying to introduce accommodation tax in Hiroshima before COVID, but you know we need to stop because of the COVID. We're going to probably redo again, you know, well, any sector like you know, car dealers is coming in. You know, one of the most famous recent tourism product in Hiroshima is Gantsu.
No, Gantsu.
Yes, Gantsu is run by a shipbuilding company. So any sector that are interested in the industry, you know, we welcome, and we just need more investment. And of course, in the managed way, we need to develop more human resources capability, both from the Gemba level to the management level.
Thank you. Satoko, how about your view?
If I put myself in the shoes of an investor, I would definitely look into rural Japan. Several reasons, but first of all, they're dying for new developers to save their destination, actually, which means purchase of land is almost close to no price, meaning you can just name the price as long as you can promise that you can create a sustainable economy focusing on the beauty of the destination. So that cannot be done by just one real estate developer. It's not just about creating a hotel, but investing in developing a hotel and then finding ways to collaborate with the locals. And if I were an investor, I would even invest in a DMO or a land operator to really build a destination. And I really see the opportunity there.
So the combination of accommodation and experience in the region, in the destination as a whole.
As a luxury travel designer, I hear the demand of our guests, and I see so much potential, and there's so much struggle, however, in each destination to get it right. So that's the reason.
Well, it looks like we should be taking the questions from you, from the floor, and then continue the discussion. Please, I'll pick up maybe 2 or 3. The Nishiguchi-san, the Goto-san, the Uchiyama-san, please.
Okay, thank you. I'm concerning about fair pricing. Actually, hotel price is almost raised to the global level, but any other service provider, like a food, restaurant, or any other services, providers are very not avoid to raise their prices to fair pricing. Actually, I'm originally from Udon-ken. And udon noodle is so cheap, but they some of the stores are not to raise price, but decided to close their stores. So this is my concern.
Okay.
So
And how to address that?
yes, a trigger or a driver. What kind of?
Okay. Thank you. Goto-san, please.
Yeah, thank you. And today I hear many words that the generative AI changed the whole industry. And how generative AI drive the growth of the tourism industry for the 2030?
Very interesting question.
Okay, I'd like to ask a question to Yuzaki-san. I came back from Singapore and landed at Narita Airport, and there's a long line for the foreign tourists. But the guiding the line spoke only in Japanese. That's the first experience for the foreign tourists. Also, I went out the gate, and I asked the taxi dispatcher, and he only spoke in Japanese. And is that kind of sort of the capacity problem, or are they full? That's my question. Thank you.
Yes, please.
This fair pricing is a significant issue. I think a lot of, a really interesting experience I had a few years ago, because we all know that Japanese prices across the board are too cheap. And I was meeting with the Kansai Ryokan organization, and they asked me to go give a speech about, tourism, all this. We got through to the end of it, and I told them, as I always do, raise the price. Inbound people, they are not residents of Japan, neither do they pay tax here. They obviously they pay, but they don't pay, they don't pay personal income tax. So there's no need, there's no requirement to provide them with cheap prices. It's ridiculous. So I got right to the end of this and said, and it's also dreadful that the most people that you employ are paid the minimum wage, because you can't expect to get good service for the right price when you pay people the minimum wage. And their answer was really interesting. Their answer was, if we raise the price, then people will expect more and we'll have to provide them with better service. And they were really serious about this. And this is a big group of people. And that's an experience I've had on several different occasions where people will say, look, we are not prepared to provide the service that is required to get the amount of money that we should be earning. We want to go home at 5 o'clock. We don't want to deal with people phoning up at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, can you provide me with breakfast now? They have somebody on the phone who says, breakfast starts at 7 o'clock, it ends at 10, please go back to sleep. And that, I think, is a really, really serious problem. As I've worked with Nijojo Castle, with Akasaka Geihinkan, with Tokyo Kokuritsu Bijutsukan, it's always the same argument. It's like, raise the price. And they say, well, if we raise the price, we'll have to do more. It's like, yes, that's the idea. That's called productivity increases, and that's how economies grow. And they say, well, we don't want to do that. We did this with Tokyo Kokuritsu Hakobutsukan. We got them to raise the price. We used the money to provide explanations of the things that people were looking at, and not just, Rakutibo red. It's all about Rakuyaki as, when it started and the historical background and the importance and all these other things. And people love it. The number of overseas visitors to the national museums has increased massively as a result of doing that. And that, I think, is the single most important thing. That's why I've spent so much time talking about the minimum wage. If you raise the minimum wage and keep raising it up, then basically providing the minimum allowable amount of service and trying to get the most price for that becomes unsustainable legally. And that, I think, is a significant problem. People want rich people to come, but they are not prepared to provide the service that rich people want for the amount of money they're being paid. And that is the ultimate issue.
I cannot agree more. The question about generative AI, can anybody pick up that question? Ben, please.
Well, tourism and technology have a very interesting relationship. For example, in hospitality, generally we're the last to use any new developments. And that's something that has been carrying on for a very long time. And so like in looking at it today with the workforce situation, it's something that is needing a very big change. We were just talking about upscaling, or like, let's talk about uplifting the service industry and about labor. We don't need to be cleaning bathrooms or doing check-in or check-out. And that really brings us back to, well, what kind of service are we going to be giving? The human touch of understanding and being adaptable. If you want to eat at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m. for breakfast, why can't we do that? Those are the things that people can do. How do we adjust to our customers? We have to become more adaptable, but that's not something that is frequently taught in hospitality. We have our SOPs and we try to stick to that because that's much more cost effective. Now with generative AI or with robots or any other technology, it's supposed to take away the menial everyday needs, and so that we can really focus on what it really means, for example, with omotenashi, to really be able to, as I understand it, understand what the customer wants before they need it. And that is something that you would think that with computers and AI that can help. But I think at the end of the day, you still don't want that. I mean, that's what I was talking about in terms of self-hospitality. We want to have that touch. We want to understand what it means to come to another country. We don't need just service. Thank you.
Thank you. The question about the staff at airports, including Narita, it's really about the lack of well, actually ability of those airport operators as well as probably local governments to attract capable enough staff, and probably the low compensation, as David mentioned or stressed several times, is the major driver for that. Agree?
Well, first of all, any airport in the world is not necessarily the best place to enjoy.
That's true.
But you know, again, like AI thing can help a lot. Well, including like a taxi translation thing. You know, you can have a board that translate and show on the driver's window, what the guests are saying, and then you talk, and then you have a panel in the back, and they can have a conversation, things like that. So technically, there are many things that can be overcome, and about pricing, I completely agree that we need to raise the price, especially for luxury restaurants or places where they're dependent on tourists. It's really on the inbound tourists. But you have to be careful with it's not just a food or restaurant segment that needs to raise the price and the labor. The Japan and the entire Japan needs to move that way. Otherwise, the restaurant like okonomiyaki in Hiroshima, if they raise price to like 2,000 yen for okonomiyaki, nobody's gonna go, and the ordinary consumers, or they are dependent on ordinary consumers mostly. So they will lose customers just by raising that. So you have to be careful where you're standing, But you have to, we as a Japan as a whole, need to be more productive and increasing the pay. And that will then drive to a better, I think. And of course, that everything leads to growth.
Yeah, for every businesses to raise price, raising the minimum wage is a very effective way to do so. That is why David is stressing that. I think we need to close the session, and yeah, there have been so many important discussions, and I cannot really summarize well. But the couple of key points I like to take away include, number one, as David stressed in the beginning, it's really about the variety. So the variety of customers and variety of destinations, variety of content, and variety of price zones as well. And we need to be careful about constructing that portfolio based on the data. Point number two, the destination vision is so important before talking about individual hotels and individual content. So many destinations and local governments really need to work on developing meaningful and unique destination vision. Point number three, management of all elements for customer journey. So it is a primary responsibility of destination management organizations, DMOs, but Japan is lacking the work in that regard. And you need to manage in an integrated way the quality of accommodations, transportation, food, and probably communication with the customer as integrated customer journey. Point number four, raise pricing and raise compensation for the staff. It was very clear. And it is critical to make the sector sustainable, as well as to be able to accommodate more sophisticated luxury customers. And point number five, to do all this, I think we need more and more new entrants. So we welcome you as probably a potential business operator in this sector. Thank you very much for joining this session, and please give a big applause to the panelists. Thank you.